Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take two series I haven't really used on the channel before, Minecraft and Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to fuse them together. So let's bring these illustrations to life. Our story begins in the land of Tahir, where many different species have alliances through marriage. This led to many half-breeds within the kingdoms of these lands. One such half-breed was Vola, the offspring of a human and an orc from the forest regions. Unlike the more common grey-coloured orcs that you find, the forest orcs were green in colour. However, Vola had more shades of green and patterns on her skin than most. She was an outcast, deemed too small and frail to be of any use in battle, even when compared to the average size of any other half-orc within the tribe. She was often picked on by other members of her clan. Her mother was a human, and a powerful one at that. She was a sorcerer, one who carried a powerful bloodline that can summon the elements when their blood boils through their veins. The marriage was to form an alliance, and although the orcs did not see magic as a means to win and conquer, the tribe had no choice. They had to admit that the power of the sorcerer was far beyond anything they'd ever seen. It was hoped that the birth of a half-orc would grant a new power within the tribe, and the offspring would inherit its mother's amazing power and status. Unfortunately, the members of the tribe were disheartened and unimpressed. The small and frail half-orc, smaller in size than a normal baby, they hoped that as she grew, her powers would develop and make up for her small stature. By the time she was a young adult, Vola hadn't shown any sign of any powers developing. The elders of the tribe honoured the alliance due to the blood pact that was made at the time. They felt that Vola was a hindrance more than an asset to the tribe, not being able to defend or even battle against their enemies. One day, members of the tribe went on a hunt. As usual, they refused to let Vola join them, thinking that she would slow them down and would only get herself injured or killed. It was a regular occurrence, and she was left behind. This time, she thought no. She wanted to be included and prove her worth. So she decided to follow them and look for any chance to prove she is just as good a member of the tribe as anyone else. After following the hunting party, Vola got separated from them in the forest. She was wandering around on her own. Scared and nervous, she wandered through the trees until she heard a loud scream. She rushed over to find the hunting party scattered over the ground, covered with injuries, with a few barely standing, holding their weapons, looking to attack. Vola was frozen for a moment, wondering what could have caused such a scene. Then she heard a loud cry as one of the hunters suddenly flew past her face. She looked in terror as she could see a Trent standing there in front of her. She had heard tale of this type of monster, but never seen one in person before. Members of her tribe, none of them were able to land a hit, as its long branched arms were being swung back and forth. These creatures looked like normal trees until they attacked. The party was completely unaware that they had walked past a Trent in the first place. They were ambushed, and the Trent decimated the party, leaving them scattered in chaos. As Vola saw the Trent looking to devour one of her tribe, she ran in between the two. She felt her blood boil and she raised her hand. Lots of small fireballs appeared in her hands, and she let out a loud cry. As she did, her body began to glow, and there was an explosion of fire around her. It was like a small bomb that had gone off. Vola had finally developed her powers as her bloodline had boiled. The element was fire, perfect against a Trent, but the range was only a few meters around her, and even though she was unscathed, Vola had almost cooked her fellow clansmen. The Trent was also unhurt, but due to the explosion and seeing the fire, it decided to run and scurry into the forest. In a matter of moments, it disappeared, perfectly camouflaged amongst the other trees. Vola had saved the members of her clan, and proven she was far from the frail and weak half-orc that they thought she was. Over centuries of living within the Shadowfell, the elves that lived there were known as the Shadakai. Prolonged exposure had left them with a darkness that tainted their souls, leaving them cold and emotionless to outsiders. They have very little regard for their own lives and are often careless with their bodies. This stems from a belief that they are part of an impossible to change cycle of life and death. One such member of the Shadakai, Uwan, was a rarity even amongst his own kin. When most of his people preferred to use light weapons and spiked chains to fight, he liked to use a bow and arrow. He was a ranger by nature, and even though he had very little regard for his own life, he was adept at using his bow and arrow, becoming the perfect assassin. Able to kill a target from the shadows using a combination of shadow magic and a superior visual acuity. He could see twice as far as any elf, and 4 times as far as any human, especially in low light. His aim was far and true, and over time he was known for never missing when he took a shot. He would always hit the target exactly where he had aimed. If this wasn't troublesome enough, Uwan could hide in plain sight in the shadows, with only daylight being able to expose his presence if the light caught him right. Unlike most other members of his clan, Uwan wore a skull on his face and bones along his clothing to look like an undead skeleton if he was spotted. The idea was to leave fear in those who caught a glimpse of him. One adventure brought our assassin to the kingdom of Sinil, where he was tasked with killing a great white dragon, known for his ability to ambush and destroy its foes in a matter of moments. He had spent weeks tracking the dragon, looking for the slightest sign of it in this harsh environment, until his exceptional eyesight caught a glance of the dragon's wing on the horizon. He pulled his bow tight and launched an arrow, full of shadow magic, through the air. The arrow swiftly flew, and as the winds picked up, it stayed true to its course. He cast a spell on the arrow, ensuring that it would hit its mark as long as he still had sight of it. The arrow hit the wing of the great dragon, and it let out a loud roar as the shadow magic started to infect and corrode its body. It flapped its wings and rose into the air. It looked at its wing and looked in the direction the arrow had come from. Slowly, the dragon opened its mouth wide. The grumbling roar got louder and louder as the inside of its mouth began to glow brighter and brighter. After a few moments, the roar became a constant noise, as if something was charged up with power, before a giant blast that could change the landscape fired out in the direction of our archer. The blast sounded like thunder. The ground exploded as the blast hit. A giant crater was being formed in its wake, with giant boulders of ice flying across the land. The crater from the blast left a trail that was smoother than the clearest icy path. The blast came closer and closer to Uwan, and without much care for his life, he remained motionless as the blast went by. The disturbed snow left him visible to the dragon's eyesight. The dragon headed for him, mouth open, ready to eat and devour him whole, even if it was the last thing it did. But Uwan just raised his bow once more, pulled back the bowstring, infused the arrow with another shadow spell, and let it fly right into the shoulder of the dragon. With 2 arrows in the creature, it wasn't long before the shadow magic began to increase in the speed at which it was corroding the flesh, causing it to fall and come crashing down. Sliding towards Uwan, who just stood there, watching without any sign of emotion. A cloud of icy snow engulfed the pair, and as it cleared, the dragon's head had stopped shortly before our ranger. In the depths of the sea is a race of elves that are adept at living in this aquatic environment. Blue in colour with white stripes and patches, these elves had less magical power than other elven subraces, but were much more deeply in tune with their environment, able to detect the most minute changes within the currents of the waves, as well as hear sounds from great distances away. One of the guardians of the settlements in the Sea of the Fallen Stars was the Elder Guardian, a rather old and unique member of the Sea Elves. The Elder Guardian was among the oldest and wisest of those in the Sea of Fallen Stars, larger than most, and with a beard compared to the rest of the other males of the Sea Elves. Elder Guardian is one of the few members of this race that can survive on land as long as he wanted to. The only condition was he had to be near a water source every couple of days to soak and revitalise his body. This ability varied among the Sea Elves, but only those who were able to survive for extended periods on land were able to earn the status of guardians. Every few generations, a member would be born with a talent for the magic arts, and the most talented in the last millennium was Elder Guardian. He had learnt from a young age that he was talented in the arcane and able to create a type of arcane laser that can be used underwater as well as on land. This was, without a doubt, the most powerful spell in his arsenal, but it had a massive weakness. The arcane laser needed time to charge, and while it was charging, this meant that Elder Guardian was vulnerable to attack. Due to learning this attack, Elder Guardian also has a rather unique appearance, and looks like a cyclops with one eye in the centre of his head. Many Sea Elves from the Great Sea Settlement often mistook Elder Guardian as a half-breed between a Sea Elf and a Cyclops. This was far from the truth. In order to learn the arcane laser spell, Elder Guardian had to undergo a series of trials which involved offering one of your eyes up in a ritual in order to gain the knowledge on how to perform this spell. It was a high price to pay, but it was worth it in the long run. To be a last resort to protect the members of the Sea of Fallen Stars from large invading forces. The arcane laser is extremely hard to avoid and can easily wipe out an entire area under the ocean. Elder Guardian would only use this spell as a last resort. The damage to the surrounding coral reefs and landscape was a high price, even if it meant protecting the citizens of the settlement. Over time, Elder Guardian's appearance became more and more strange, with what appeared to be fawn-like shells over his shoulders and head. He started to look more and more like a beast than a sea elf. However, he always retained his kind-hearted nature, and his appearance was due to his efforts to protect the Sea of Fallen Stars over the centuries. What do you guys think for the first Minecraft D&D episode? I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm quite pleased with how the characters came out. I think they're all really good, but let me know which one was your favourite in the comments below. If you like this episode, why not check out one of the other videos like Pokemon's Mech Armors, or maybe even the community redraw from last month, taking subscribers' superheroes and venomizing them. Stay safe everybody, I'll catch you next time.